So welcome back to Zoom Tennis. Today we're talking alchemy with Ella Mesma. She's going to talk about what does alchemy actually mean, and also tell you how we can go on a 9-month roadmap to define alchemy for each and every one of us. So Ella, welcome to Zoom Tennis. It's lovely to see you today.
Thanks, Chris. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Where do we find you today?
I'm actually in Lisbon.
You're in Lisbon. Oh, well, there we go.
Sunny Lisbon.
Dreams already discovered.
On me.
All right, well, we'll find a little bit more about you, but everybody's keen to learn about this phrase that we call alchemy, and some people may not have even heard of it before. So, Ella, straight from the start, could you help us understand what is alchemy?
Sure. So the way I describe it is that there's 3 phases: Negredo, Albedo, and Rubedo. Negredo really represents our lead. And by lead, I mean our stuff, the stuff that gets in the way, our thought patterns, our beliefs. So, for example, for many years, I had a not belonging belief. I really believed I didn't fit in. Wherever I was, I kind of thought that I was an imposter and that I shouldn't have been there. And that kind of vision of the world, it's almost as if I had a set of glasses on. That vision of the world was really interfering with me being in my heart and being my best self and going for what I would love to create. So that's Negredo. Albedo is your truth, what's really in your heart, how would you really love to live? And when you're not in that storyline, who are you? And then finally, Rubedo is about taking the action, choosing that higher self over the lower. So I call it our goddess self, that self that is really connected to your heart. How do you choose that? How do you take action? So rather than the belief maybe coming in going, it's not good enough or it needs to be perfect, and so stopping you from taking action, the Rubedo is like, how do I concretize what I would really love, and how do I go for that in my life?
Okay. And it's a little bit, I know we're going a little bit off piste here, but I'm fascinated by this alchemy journey that you've been on. And you talked about an imposter and wearing the wrong glasses. So was it a sort of a wake-up call one morning that you discovered alchemy, or was it something that you've gradually learned to love through time?
A bit of both. There was a real moment. So in 2015, I was living in London at the time, and I'd broken up with a boyfriend who I thought I was going to spend my life with. And, you know, I kind of looked around at my world. I also got told in that same moment that I needed to move out of the house that I was able to afford to live in. So it was this real, like, I can't afford to live in London anymore. I don't know where I'm going. You know, that kind of, you know, when you hit that rock bottom place. And I just thought there has to be more than this. And I actually found, you know, I started to kind of search, and I actually found a course in alchemy, and that was 5 years ago. So I've been training in it for the past 5 years and slowly chipping away, you know, because I had so much stuff. I had so many beliefs about myself. So it's been this kind of slow and gradual journey. And I think like what I had done before led me there. So, you know, every little step, even the difficult things, I'm grateful for now because it was part of the journey. But there was definitely that moment of, no, this is what I'm going to study for the rest of my life. And I really felt like I'd found my answer.
Okay. So if somebody was feeling like they've got that imposter syndrome, or they need to get out their own way, which is a phrase I hear a lot at the moment, what would you say you could see as a result from alchemy that you can see now that you didn't know existed in 2015, in terms of why should people bother about what you talk about by way of defining alchemy?
Sure. So the biggest thing for me is living your life for yourself, you know, and that might sound selfish, but actually by doing that, the amount of others you inspire to live a conscious life, a life where I feel like so many of us kind of, we're affected by life, you know, bad stuff happens and we just kind of bowl along and we just live our life without really thinking about what do I want, and this really enables you to go for it. So yeah, I'm in Lisbon right now, living my best life. Obviously, with certain things, you've always got to take those silver linings from, for example, coronavirus. But yeah, I really feel like now I'm living in line with who I always wanted to be, and who I felt as a child, even of like, you know, I'm here for a purpose, and there's some things that I would love to share with the world, and there's certain things I would love to do and that really give me joy. Now I feel like, yeah, I'm every day living that joyful life. So that's what I would offer, is it's getting back to your heart and what you would love.
Well, I can see that within you, you look as if you are very at one with where you are. And if that's a definition of what alchemy means, then I can see it in the screen now, that obviously it fills you with so much almost self-worth of who you are today. So I know you were going to talk about in a minute how actually you can enable others to become more aware of alchemy through your 9-month journey. But what's a question you want to put back to me, Ella, I guess now?
I would love to ask a little bit, just, I know we've talked a lot about kind of 2020 and 2021. I would love to know about you keeping focused on your dreams and what works for you. Do you use alchemy, or are there other tools that you use?
There's a number, to be honest. And I'm not a great believer of resolutions per se for the new year, in that why should you suddenly define 2021 with a set of resolutions? But I do believe that every calendar year, it's a good chance to check in with the past and look forward to the future. One of the things I talk about in some of my coaching programs is having this sort of virtual spear that you throw a long way into the distance. And then that's kind of your reference point as to where you're trying to get to. Some people talk about the North Star, the guiding principle. And I sort of spend Christmas and New Year thinking, is my spear in the future the one that I still want to go searching for? And if not, why not? And then from there, I put things into 8 segments around things like business, spirituality, exercise, health, finance, relationships, fun. And I've got it today. This is my 7-day accountability chart. You probably can't see it very well, but on the left-hand side, I've got all of my quadrants in terms of the things that I want to try to aspire to. And then across the top, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And each morning I'll put a green dot in each quadrant to say, I did something yesterday that related to an input on that particular square. And I know that if I keep on putting green dots in those squares, I'm going to get closer, even if it's just an inch at a time, to my spear in the future. And it's my sort of accountability measure to know that as long as I'm putting in the effort, I will eventually, with everlasting, unwavering faith, I'll get there. But if I wake up tomorrow and I look at my green dots and there's only one, well, that's, I failed to really inspire myself to check in with my inputs. And I take accountability for the fact that it wasn't my fault about what I got distracted with. It really is just something that I have to commit to. If I'm really serious about my spear in the future, that's my dream. That's my emotional input in terms of where I want to get to. And I use my 7-day accountability chart to try to check in with those practices every day. Brilliant.
I love it.
All right. So alchemy is something that you're enabling others to do. How do you do that? I've heard about your 9-month program, Ella. Can you give us a bit more clarity on what that 9-month program is, who's it for, and what kind of results can we expect to achieve as a result of going on that journey with you?
Absolutely. Interestingly, one of the principles is quite similar, actually, in that we make choices. So we come up with 9 or 10 choices of how we want to live our lives. And those are all made from what we call your land of plenty, which is what your heart really desires. And that's a kind of meditative process to get there. And then your choices are made. And exactly as you said, you make them every single day and you're working towards them every day. But we work very much with intuition. So it's about how do we get outside of our ego? Because often our ego is so clever, and it kind of tricks us, and we think that we want something, but actually for example, we might be going away from something else we don't want, or it's about actually proving yourself to somebody rather than really being what your heart desires. So we kind of start with this process of getting what does your heart really desire, and what are your 9 choices. And the 9-month program is very much influenced by the chakras in terms of kind of the layout of the journey and the working on your beliefs and working on your stuff, so that at the same time we can see it, but we can choose the higher, we can choose our goddess self. So it's a course or a program available for 11 goddesses, which would be women with an X, and those 11 women will kind of come with me over the 9 months. So we start on the 27th of January. each month we have one workshop, which is an all-day workshop on a Sunday, and that's where we really work on this chakra kind of journey. So we do 2 on the root, which are called home. It's all about coming back home to yourself, understanding around fear, how that's getting in the way, and kind of survival mode, and where might we be living in that stress mode that we talked about earlier, rather than really being in what I call homeostasis. So it's about coming back home to that state of homeostasis where we are, like you said, very rooted and grounded in who we are. Then we move the next 2 months into the Sacral Chakra, which is a lot around boundaries and consent. Very often I find women are not so in touch with what they would love and their own pleasure, because they've been kind of conditioned to please others, and they've been really thinking about being of service to, for example, their children, and so they're not really listening to their heart and their intuition on that same level anymore. We do a lot around like emotions and what emotions are held into the body and releasing those, and we just continue to move up, so into the sacral space around sabotage and what beliefs are really stopping you taking off those glasses that I mentioned earlier, into the heart around bowing down to yourself, acknowledging your greatness, which can be very emotional. And so we keep on journeying. Then once a month we do a session which is really like a lecture on alchemy, understanding the principles and understanding where it comes from. There are 7 principles of alchemy, so it can be quite a lot to kind of get your head around, so I like to give that time for people to really understand everything. And then finally, and most importantly, we do 2 coaching sessions, 1-to-1 per month, and that's where the magic really happens, because very often, like I said, your ego can be so clever. It can be so tricky, and so I find that those are really where we kind of get those truths and understand where the beliefs are so deeply rooted within us as individuals. So yeah, it's a beautiful program for 11 women over 9 months, starting on the 27th of January.
Okay, and I get what you talk about there in terms of the vulnerability. Often in a group or a lecture format, people will not be willing to expose the sort of the inner sanctum of their own self-limiting beliefs. So I guess when you go one-on-one with them, that's when, like you say, the magic really begins to unfurl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you maybe paint a story, without telling us who it was, of somebody that came to the journey as this person, and then what they came out of that 9-month journey in terms of something that was completely different, and how that has inspired you to carry on connecting with these goddesses?
Absolutely, yeah. So staying anonymous, I know who I'm going to go for, but they will remain anonymous. So this person, and I often work with creatives actually, and when I say creatives, for me I really mean, I believe everyone is creative, but someone who wants to get back in touch with their creativity and really honor that. So this person is a creative and is kind of working in the creative industry, but was not being paid very well. Like actually, when we really looked, there was a session where we really looked at their prices and realized, or they realized finally of, I'm actually, I'm keeping myself small by making myself suffer when I work, because I'm always overworking for the value of what I'm giving. But the real magic happened because they're a mother and have spent a lot of their motherhood, focusing on bringing up their child, but have kind of come to almost like just have a lot of resentment and frustration within their own body. And I would say that the biggest and kind of most beautiful transformation in that individual was love. Releasing all the anger. There was a lot of frustration at their ex-partner and how life had turned out, and it was about taking back the control, making those plans, tuning in every single day to their choices and living life in alignment. And it is amazing. I mean, I'm sure you find the same with your work, but when people make that commitment, often it's very small things that they actually need to do to make the change. It might be to be in their hearts, or like really small little things that lead to a coincidence. Maybe they talk about what they do, and then that coincidence leads to someone else setting them up with a meeting with someone else. So sometimes it's these tiny things, but it really transforms the way they're living their life. And to see that woman now, I get emotional because it's just so beautiful to see the transformation from quite a kind of downtrodden individual who was feeling really frustrated and angry, and then beating herself up because she felt she wasn't a good mum because she was coming from that angry energy, to this goddess now who's, you know, in love, has a beautiful relationship with her daughter, and is, you know, really flourishing in her career. So yeah, it gives me so much joy to see those journeys.
I just listened to some of those words of sabotage, downtrodden, frustration. They're such powerful words to inhibit somebody's personal growth. And I love the fact that you, well, I use the word love, but I'm actually going to reflect the fact that you talk about, you know, loving oneself. And it's, some people have this belief that you could be too arrogant to love yourself, but actually, if you can't love yourself, well, what's the point? Because it has to come from within. And if you're not happy with the person that you see, nobody else is going to ever tell you more than what you need to hear yourself. So, wow, sabotage and overtrodden emotions. And there are so many people that I know you can really, really help. So is it only one course per year, 27th of January? Is that it? Or is there other opportunities to engage with you?
There are many other opportunities, yeah. So we also do a retreat, which I should be just getting back from right now, but obviously that didn't happen this year. But so next year we're going to Thailand around Christmas, just after Christmas. We will go. We will make it this year.
Yes, we will.
I have a course in March, at the end of March, called Embodied Alchemy, which is for anybody who wants to join the program. And I have a few online courses, one actually on not belonging belief and imposter syndrome and so on. So there are other opportunities, but the 11 Goddesses, the 9-month program, is just once a year.
I love that, the vision of 11 goddesses all coming together, and you know, the kind of Destiny's Child music playing in the background. And I know we talked a lot about women today, but you do a business yoga course as well, don't you, where we can encourage other men to become a little bit more flexible, a little bit more at one with themselves. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. Yeah. So again, it's welcome for everyone, but I really, my joy is working with those high-flying men in business who perhaps don't quite put yoga and meditation and mindfulness at the kind of point of their day or as the priority. And I'm really finding that it's just beautiful to see that journey and that realization that actually, when you take just that little bit of time for mindfulness, you can really transform how you work.
And is it encouraged cameras off and no spandex, sort of, you know, lycra?
Absolutely. I mean, that would also be quite interesting.
No, I can assure you there'll be absolutely no encouragement for me to come on a yoga screen with my yoga pants on. No, absolutely not.
No, actually, the truth is you don't need to get changed. So it's called 23 on Me. So it's all about taking short, sharp moments out of your day. So 23 minutes every day to just look at your body, to get your spine moving. So the spine is supposed to move in 6 directions, but obviously when we're at a desk, we don't move the spine. So it's really about just keeping the body young by keeping the body moving. Good.
Well, I am on my stand-up desk today. If I'm doing all my videos, I'm always standing up, so I can jump, and yeah, I'll hopefully I've got a little tick point from Ella today from that.
You definitely did.
All right, final question then for you, Ella, today. Just all this power of goddesses and alchemy. Looking back on 2020, we're now well into 2021. And everybody's back in the lockdown situation in the UK, and I think Portugal is about to do the same.
Yeah.
What's your own recommendation for resilience?
For resilience, sure. My mind just went to nature. Like getting out, you know, taking those moments. I mean, even if it's just looking out of a window, but I find that there's something about mindfulness, I suppose, and connecting mindfulness with moments in nature that I find super, super helpful. I think like I call it habit stacking, actually, creating routines. And you know, it's so easy when we're in our house to just let everything go, but to make those routines of, you know, I'm going to do yoga at this time, I'm going to go for a walk at this time, I'm going to take a break at this time, but just making sure that you're accountable to yourself, I suppose, or even better, can you be accountable to someone else? Can you make appointments and times where you'll be doing that with somebody or signing up to a class? What else? ways to be resilient. I think as well, I found for me in lockdown, one, it was what can I offer? How can I be of service? And that made it much easier for me to adapt and actually evolve in a time of difficulty, rather than, you know, I had a lot of friends who were in the survival mode and in the fear. And I was going, okay, well, how does my heart deal with this, and what can I offer to the world? And I really did find that, you know, business yoga evolved so much over that time. And in fact, I wrote my book in that time. So, you know, there's so much that we can do when we see that we can make lemonade, rather than, you know, reacting in fear to something.
And your book, we've not mentioned it, but what's the book and what's it on?
It's called Journal to Joy.
Okay.
And it is actually very much based on the principles of alchemy. So and that's another way you can probably reach me, actually. Good point is, you know, if you want to just find out a bit more about alchemy and understand more, then you can learn about the principles that way. And then it has at the back of the book, it's a kind of a system of daily journaling that's very much aligned with the goddess path, with the idea of working with the chakras day by day and looking at what's the stuff that I can transmute. How can I turn my lead into gold? How can I be in my heart?
Well, you speak my language. Habits, routine, showing up and giving your best self. Unfortunately, I'm not a goddess, so I can't come onto one of your programs. But if I was a goddess, I definitely know I'd be signing up on the 27th of January.
You'd make a great one.
Ella, let me just share the screens again so that if anybody wants to learn how to connect with you or how to follow this up, then it is on there for everybody to see. So it's ellamegandia@.com. Your mobile number's there, and you are also a great giver on LinkedIn. I know that you do an awful lot of work on LinkedIn, so if you want to lurk on LinkedIn and see a bit more about Ella, then it's there. Everything all right there, Ella, for you?
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, I've learned a lot, and those words are still with me of sabotage and downtrodden. And if you help one more goddess this year to become a flying carpet of joy, then that would be amazing.
Love that, a flying carpet of joy. So gorgeous.
Yeah. All right, there's plenty more videos in this series, either that way or that way, on Adama Business Consulting on YouTube. But Ella, today, thank you so much for your time and for your wise words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, and bye everyone. Thank you.